We're live. There we go. Here we are. And we're live. Thank you, Janine, as always. Welcome, everybody, to the Tummy Whisperer podcast. I'm your host and Tummy Whisperer specialist, Renee Barish. I am really, really excited today because I have some very, very special guests on today. About a month and a half ago or 2 months ago, I was talking with a good friend of mine, and she had a lot of pain. She had a lot of pain in her abdomen area. She had stage 3 uterine cancer. She's in remission. She's doing quite well, but she had a lot of crowding feeling, deep hip pain. Just, it was a lot for her to try to. We're dog walking partners, right? So we walk 15 to 20 miles a week, and we do it, but she pushes through. So she starts telling me about this product that she just started to use, and she was feeling better. And she, at one point, announced to me on our 6-mile hike that she had no pain. I said, let me add it. I am interested in this. So fast forward to ordering some of this amazing product myself from Lumna. I have been able to really change my health in a different direction that I don't know that I would be able to without this product. So today, as a special treat, I have the founder and formulator on from Lumna. Crystal Chong is the co-founder of Lumna. Dr. Juliana Giles is the formulator, and she's a naturopathic physician. And actually my new doc, full transparency, who's fucking amazing. Sorry. And because I need a lot of help. But I've just been so blown away by the results I'm having within my own system and on my clients. My husband as well is a testimonial. He's got a standing up job now. Plantar fasciitis. You think, but until you get plantar fasciitis, he said it's really intense, like sticking in the heel and everything. And he's limping to the bathroom. And I'm like, oh my God, is this what's going to be like when we're 90? Like, what the heck? So, he's using the cream. And he's just, one day he starts like moving his foot around. He's like, I just don't think I feel my heel anymore. And he's got 2 stand-up jobs. So, again, this product has been game-changing for me. So I wanted to bring these beautiful ladies on to talk about Lumna, talk about the idea behind formulating it. Obviously, so many people have so many issues with their health, digestion, pain, sleep, insomnia, anxiety, allergies. We can go on for hours. This product, their products can help on some level with a lot of these things. So I thought I would just kind of lead in with that and then just punt over to you girls and take it away, however you want to start.
Sure. So maybe I'll share a little bit about what Lumna is, because I know Dr. J is going to be probably answering most of the questions. Right. So get in where I can, basically.
Yes.
So Lumna is a hybrid of ancient medicine and modern science. That's what our elixirs are made from. It's a novel, natural, and extremely effective solution, as you see, Renee, for pain, hard to treat pain. And we'll talk more about these things, stress, and also sleep. So people find an easier time falling asleep. They stay asleep. They wake up feeling rested, not groggy. One of the things that we love about it is very safe. It's not addictive. One of the things that we're very proud of is that it's the world's first transdermal therapeutic elixir. So it's basically the world's first lotion that helps to support these things, pain, stress, and sleep at the root cause, which is your nervous system. And so, one of our missions was to help support things at the root cause level versus just the symptoms. And so that's one of the things that we love about how it's working. And that's one of the reasons why it's working so well. It's clinically tested. We, as you shared, Renee, have fantastic stories from people who are using it that just lights us up and makes us feel so happy that we embarked on this journey and just makes us so fulfilled. And I think another great thing that we really love about it is that people get immediate relief, right? Because that's what people need. They need something to take the weight off of the pain or the anxiety that they're feeling right now. And the immediate relief that they get is incredible. Some people report at least taking by at least half. And then another thing that we really love is that these results improve with time. And Dr. J will share more about specifically the mechanisms in the formulation for how that's working. It's a beautiful formulation, and it's just a wonderful thing that she's created, which we have lots to share with you guys on. And I think the last thing that I wanted to share on it very quickly is just that sometimes people forget that your skin is your biggest organ, right? Like we use lotion every day on our body as part of our routine. That like a lot of
It's like
times.
lotion, probably. Sorry.
I mean, worst case scenario has things like that are very unhealthy for you, like phthalates or things that can cause other health issues or make health issues worse. And best case scenario is really good for your skin. But we forget that in this routine that we're doing every day, we can also use something that is helping to help us with our overall health as well as specific conditions that we're sort of battling with. So that's
And
kind
one
of
of the
Go
and
ahead.
one of the things I love about it too is like how many. I mean, I feel like I'm a whole dispensary here with all the supplements I take, because I need to, and I'm fine with that. But how nice is it to be able to put a cream on and just get it right to your organs?
Yeah.
And Dr. J is going to go into how it does it. It gets to the organs because of how she formulated it. So I won't spoil alert it, but it's been just such a blessing to have in my life, and I'm so excited. So Dr. J, tell us a little bit about the vision, the why, all of it, how it all came to where you guys are today.
Yeah, so great question. I mean, where to begin? I guess just kind of a background story is that Crystal and I met at a yoga retreat a year and a half, almost 2 years ago. And we just connected. We chatted the whole time. It was like instant connection. We became good friends. And a few months later, of course, we exchanged contact info. And a few months later, she approached me and just said, so I have this idea. I don't know if it's even possible. And I don't know if you are the person to talk to about this, but you've told me you've worked on herbal formulations, that you've worked for other companies doing formulations. And, I have this idea that I would like to make a lotion that helps people with their anxiety or stress or mood. Would you be able to make something like that? I want it to have immediate effects. Like I want people to be able to feel it right away. And I was like, yeah, I could do that. And she's like, but would it work? And I was like, I mean, I'd make it work. I'm not going to put something out there that isn't going to work. Like I'll keep working it until it works. That's how I am.
I think, sorry, Jay, just to add to this, I think one of the things is that I really wanted something that would make people not feel sedated, right? Because, I'm somebody who struggled with anxiety my whole life. And I didn't like the medications because it dumbed me down and I wanted to feel myself. I also wanted something that wasn't just treating the symptom, like we're talking about treating the root cause, which is your nervous system. And that wasn't really there for people. And I wanted something that wasn't addictive as well. So I had asked Dr. J if she could make something like this. And then I'm probably going to
she did.
Add to things.
That's totally fine. Yeah, that's totally fine. Interrupt me at any point because, this is a dynamic conversation. But I said, of course, and I knew right away that I could make something that was systemically absorbed and that people could feel right away. And I told her, I was like, I'm not worried about it not working. I'm worried about getting the texture right. Like full disclosure, that's going to be the hardest part is getting it the right consistency and getting it to fully emulsify and hold because it's hard to do with natural products. That's why so many topicals are just some like base that they add other things to.
Like some kind of junky petroleum base or coconut oil or something. I actually wanted to ask you, what is the actual cream? If you can, if you can't, that's okay. Yeah.
You want to finish?
Yeah, I want to know what I see the oil separate a little tiny bit when it's warmer in my bedroom. I smell the helichrysum. I smell all it is so delicious. You can literally like baste a turkey and it's amazing, but I wondered when I put it on, I can't place what the main cream part is. It's not coconut. It's not petroleum. It's not anything gross. And I wondered what it was. If you could share, I was curious.
I think the way that it comes together is a mix of 21 plus ingredients, but some of the oils that we're using are castor, shea, and jojoba. And, as Dr. J will share, we used over 21 ingredients that have been shown to be clinically effective for various things. So every ingredient was very intentionally chosen to speak to the specific thing that it's for. And Jay will probably go more into that, including those oils.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And so, the whole idea, this is a good segue into once I kind of perfected the initial formulation, which took about 3 iterations before I got it to really hold and stay consistent. We did at one point look into contract manufacturing, thinking, if we could offload the work, now that we have a whole formulation that works, that would be ideal for us. And I don't know how many contract manufacturers we talked to, but everyone was like, basically, hell no. There's no way, like, this is way too complex. This is not what we normally do. We normally want you to choose a base and then choose constituents to add to the base. We don't do emulsifications. We don't emulsify things. This is way beyond what we're able to do. So we had to set up manufacturing, upscale it from my kitchen basically to a larger lab size, with lab size equipment. And we had to get manufacturing going all on our own. Nobody could make it. So basically it is it's an emulsion of herbally infused oils and then different constituents added to that, emulsified with water soluble constituents, things like aloe and other things.
Aloe.
So there's aloe in there. There's glycerin or glycerites. There's magnesium. I'll get into the ingredients in a little bit.
Like the shea butter is kind of maybe some of the thick. I was wondering.
The thickness comes from the shea. And there's also some, beeswax, lanolin, things that help to emulsify and also keep it together. These were all little tweaks that I had to make in the formulation process to get it to not split constantly, and not so that you didn't have to shake it every time you tried to use it.
Yeah, it stays together well. Only if it's like a little warmer in my bedroom, I have to give it a little stir. I love when I hear my husband stirring it. That means he's using it. So I'm happy.
Love it. And at first we were having to have everybody shake it, and we were having to stir it each time. And so all of the tweaks that I made were to get it to stick together without the use of binders or other like non-bioactive constituents. Like, there is an intention behind it and a bioactive bioactivity to every single constituent that we add. There's no fillers. Yeah. There's nothing that's just there to keep it together. It has some
right, and you can feel it too. Like Janine, like when you put it on, it doesn't feel like anything you've ever put on. It's not
and
creamy.
it smells so good. It's like
not oily. It's not greasy. It's not sticky. It's like it's amazing. It's
interesting, Janine, that you brought up the smell, because that's one of the things that Dr. J is referring to, which is that every single ingredient has a purpose. Even the ingredients that you're smelling, they're from essential oils like helichrysum, geranium rose, peppermint, vanilla, and all of those specific essential oils are speaking to whether it's mood or stress or pain, depending on the formulation that they're in. I think just to add to the conversation about the formulation, Dr. J and I sat and we talked about all the different kinds of things that we could use, and Dr. J has extensively researched a lot of these things and how they can work together and how they can support the issue. And then that's how it came together. And I think that the ingredients, which she's going to talk about more, I'm sure, shortly, because it's pretty fascinating, that combination of ingredients is what's helping it to give relief to pain conditions that in a way that's incomparable to the other things out there, which is why we're getting these emails from people that we don't know, which is really just like lighting up our life. It's working for things that are really difficult to treat, that are not really well covered by conventional pharmaceuticals. I remember very early on in our journey, Dr. J was talking about, we started with the anxiety formulation, and we had
is that Calm and Uplift?
That's Calm and Uplift, right?
Okay.
Yeah. For stress and mood support and sleep. And we had someone who had diabetic neuropathy, and he was using a bunch of different medications that weren't working for it, and he couldn't sleep. And I remember he tried it on his leg because it has magnesium in it. And, the next day he just woke up and he was like, oh my gosh, he like wrote us immediately. And he was like, this is the first time I've been able to sleep through the night. He was taking gabapentin. He had tried everything, and he just woke up with these insane cramps. And then a patient with trigeminal neuralgia who also, has been seeking something for a very long time, but nothing has been working. And she says she uses it at night, and it's the only way that she can sleep. So I think that the ingredients,
it's so painful. Oh, that's supposed to be one of the most
they're just
face, right?
Yeah, preventing people from sleeping, preventing people from living, preventing people from being able to enjoy their life, from being able to like have a fulfilling experience in life and do things that they want to. And so that's a big thing that the formulation is supporting. I think another thing that is really great about the formulation is that it's really safe. It's not addictive, and there's a lot of things like you and I, Renee, have spoken about this extensively. Not just help support the pain and the mood and the sleep, but really support overall health in general. We have this example of somebody who has had arthritis for the longest time, and she's been on NSAIDs forever, and now she has chronic kidney disease because that's what happens after some time. And she says she's been using it, and she feels like she can feel her feet again, and she really loves it because one of the ingredients that we use is ALA, and so ALA is one of the only things that are nephroprotective, so it actually really helps protect your kidney and help with kidney health. I think another thing about the formulation that's really great is that, in comparison, especially to like NSAIDs or other things for hard to treat pain, like we just talked about, that person was using gabapentin, it helps people bring their pain down by half or more, and it works for 6 to 8 hours. So, I mean, I'm talking a lot about this, but I'm just like leading up to to the ingredients, because then I think when I share some of this, the ingredients will have the context. We also really love the ingredients that are in the product, because they really help with neurogenesis, which is why it helps with decreasing the issue over time. And Dr. J is going to talk more in detail about that as well. Because, a lot of things that people have, they help to support the situation immediately, but not with really helping long term. And that was one of our missions, which is really the root cause. So,
and getting the stuff delivered to where
right.
it needs to go. And for those of you who are listening and not sure, ALA is ALA stands for alpha lipoic acid, which actually helps with detoxification. It helps with bringing nutrition into your cells. It's a wonderful thing to add in. I would have never even thought that ALA would work topically, but it does. So it's a beautiful thing. And also too, before Dr. J goes into the ingredients, which I wanted to do, for however long we have to do this, I wanted to talk about the nervous system, the role that it plays, and how our nervous system basically hijacks our health. So most people have pain, digestive issues, anxiety, all the things we mentioned, but it's a really nervous system dysregulation. And when your nervous system is dysregulated, nothing works properly. Things are too slow, things are too fast. All the timing of your cellular matrix is off. So the nervous system can't go into rest and digest. It's in sympathetic overdrive. Some people, very rare though, are in parasympathetic overdrive, or they're kind of not moving either. And you need a balance of both. So Dr. J, if you could talk a little bit about the nervous system, the role that it plays, how our bodies respond to and overly respond to stimuli, and then we can go into the formula and how it works to help with that, and then the ingredients, if that sounds okay with you. So, yeah. Okay, take it away, girl.
Renee, you hit on a really important point, that this Lumna, our topicals work both from a top-down approach and then a bottom-up approach at the same time, because of the way it's working on the nervous system. So top-down approach is when we adjust the brain and brain health. It obviously, our brain, I shouldn't say obviously, I don't think a lot of people realize that all of your hormones and your entire immune system is controlled by your brain. So it's the nervous system signals coming from your brain through the rest of the body that regulates everything, homeostasis. And then there's 3 branches of the peripheral nervous system. You have the somatic nervous system, which is conscious control. So like, I want to move my arm, I move my arm. That's the somatic nervous system. But then you have the autonomic nervous system, which has 2 branches. One is sympathetic, so fight or flight, being constantly stressed, fight or flight, just stress, overdrive, stress hormones cascading through the body. And then there's the parasympathetic branch, which is mainly governed by the vagus nerve, which has 2 branches. One is dorsal vagal and one is ventral vagal. So dorsal vagal is the freeze response and the shutdown response. So when we think of fight, flight, or fight, flight, or freeze. Freeze is dorsal vagal shutdown. And usually that happens when somebody has been so in sympathetic overload for so long that eventually the nervous system just shuts down. I always make the analogy of, like a bunny in a field. And if it can't run from the eagle diving down at it, and if it can't obviously fight, then it plays dead. And so that's kind of what the dorsal vagal nervous system response is. Ventral vagal is when we're in a balanced, calm, rest and digest, open to connection, creative space. So we can connect heart to heart to people. We can, again, digest our food and our nutrients. We can feel more joy and peace. We can feel connected to things greater than ourselves. That's ventral vagal, and that's what we're trying to induce. And we have found very consistently that both products bring people into that ventral, or can help people come back into that ventral vagal state where they're able to digest better. They feel more calm. They feel balanced, uplifted, all of that. And again, they're just hormones, because again, so that's the top-down approach. When a lot of these constituents working in the central nervous system, then will also help to improve immune function and hormone function, because again, all of those signals are coming from centers in the brain. So essentially we're targeting through the skin, where there are a ton of nerves and blood vessels. The constituents are uptaken, circulated. Many of the constituents do cross into the blood-brain barrier, which is why you feel the effects of the medicine or the natural medicines in your system. So that's the brain level. And then everything can kind of come back into homeostasis, which is why we're finding so many interesting, unforeseen sort of results of this, because we're working on both a bottom-up and top-down approach with the nervous system. And I think there was something else I wanted to say about the nervous system, but I'm sure I can double back to that.
I think you explained it in a way that people can digest and understand it, that there's so many there's the different branches, right? So like autonomically, thank God, because we're breathing without thinking about it.
Right.
But, our bodies are just so in such a kind of response mode. There's so much stimulus. We have computers and smartphones and like all these things now where we're so overly stimulated, more so than ever.
Yes.
And the Wi-Fi signals mess up all the signaling molecules. And, we could probably talk for a long time about that, but it's so hard. I find it difficult to find a way to really stabilize the nervous system in whatever way we can. And this cream, the Lumna cream, can do that. It's one of the only things I think out there that people can actually purchase for a very reasonable price and have it in their medicine cabinet, their wellness cabinet. It's just, it's phenomenal. So
I love this. My husband, I have to jump in. My husband is literally like watching this on Facebook right now. And little does he know that the founders of this cream that is in our kitchen are on this podcast. So he's watching. And when I got the box, he's like, "What's this?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's for pain. It's helpful." I'll tell you what, it works. 100%.
You got to tell your story. You got to. It was. I was cracking up. I said it verbatim to Crystal. But yeah, hey MacGyver, if you're watching, give us your story. It's a perfect time.
Yeah, so I was on a new weight loss program. I wanted to get back in the gym and lift some weights, and I went way too hard too fast. And I thought I could just, I thought I could do what I did, when I was in the best shape of my life, like 10 years ago. So I was lifting, not thinking. Anyway, I pulled a tendon in this shoulder here, and I had never pulled a tendon before. Like it hurt so bad, debilitating pain. I didn't know what to do. So a friend of mine's a chiropractor. He's like, "Oh, come in my office. I can do some treatment on you." And not that I didn't want to, I love him, but I didn't go. And then I had a friend that was a massage therapist, and she's like, "I'll do a massage." So she came to my studio. She did a full massage on me. She worked on me for an hour. No help.
Didn't it make
Then-
it worse? Didn't you say it made
Yeah,
it worse
it
almost?
made it worse. It was like too,
I'm not getting
too
you in
soon.
trouble.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, she's on Facebook anyway.
Oh, that's okay. Well,
So
sorry.
then, yeah, it's all good. So then I'm like, what else am I gonna do? And then a dear friend of mine who's like into homeopathic and all this stuff, she's like, you have to meet this guy. He's a guru. He's in Ecuador. He's a medical doctor. He's been running this practice for like 20 years. He does this like specific maneuver with the brain and pressure points. And I'm like, I'm in. Like, I'll try it. And nothing. And then like here I am, I'm on like a Zoom from Ecuador, right? And I'm like, oh, this has gotta work. No, it didn't work. I tried the cream, lo and behold, it actually worked. So it's like I spent hundreds of dollars to like feel better and nothing worked. And this cream, like, it worked.
It works.
So yeah. That's my story.
I love
it.
Well, I
That's a good
was
story.
going to say about this kind of ties into, I remember what I was going to say about another thing about the nervous system is that, so we often say, or in like palliative care and pain management, no brain, no pain. You know, we all think about the pain signals coming from the periphery, you know, like your shoulder. When your shoulder hurts, nerves are impinged, or there's inflammation, there's all sorts of signals coming, ouch, ouch, ouch. But what processes pain is the brain. And so because a lot of these constituents are, well, because it's fully absorbed through your skin, which again is the largest organ of your entire body, and because it's going into the bloodstream and many of these constituents cross the blood-brain barrier, you also have, when it comes to pain, the central desensitization to pain that happens. Because with chronic pain, what can often happen is pain begets more pain. And there can be this central sensitization that happens where the brain starts to process innocuous signals, not painful signals, just like a bump or a scratch or something, as the worst pain ever. And that's what fibromyalgia is, sensitization to pain. And so because, again, these constituents are working at the brain level, the central nervous system level, as well as on the peripheral nerves, you're getting basically double the effect. And then again, long term, because of the way it's working on the nervous system, and can ultimately, a lot of these constituents repair damaged nerves, it can actually get to the root cause. If the nerves are damaged and that's causing these misfiring signals, by repairing those both in the brain and in the periphery, eventually, if you use it for long enough, the goal is that you eventually don't need it, or only need it during acute flares, or, you know, times of new injuries or things like that. So, and again, we're bypassing the GI tract completely, which, Renee, you know, for many people, people's digestion is very compromised. And in Ayurveda, we say not you are what you eat, but you are what you digest. And if you're not digesting, and also if you're not digesting because you're in chronic fight or flight, then, or freeze, then, and everything's either shut down or not moving correctly in your GI tract, you're not absorbing probably a lot of what you're taking in, medicines, supplements, foods, everything, all of it. And so by using the skin, you don't have to worry about that. And again, by improving the parasympathetic ventral vagal tone, then over time, digestion will improve naturally, because a lot of chronic digestive issues actually start in the nervous system. A lot. It's very overlooked. We always think, oh, what's going on with the gallbladder or the liver, or what's going on with the colon? But often it's misfiring signals from the autonomic nervous system. And again, I don't think a lot of people realize that. So it's all of these ingredients are super bioavailable. You're absorbing virtually 100% through your skin, and they're absorbed quite rapidly, which is also why it doesn't leave too bad of a film generally on the skin, because your skin's so
right away. And then Dr. J, talk a little bit about how, because it is hard to repair nerve tissue. Like, I mean, the nerve tissue is super delicate, and I think it can, if, you know, you lived in a bubble and didn't move and had no stress, but that's not the case. So talk a little bit about how some of that actual physical tissue, the firing tissue of the nervous system, can repair with these ingredients, where so many people and then systemically how then it can heal with the organs. Take us through that, if you would.
Yeah, of course. So when I was still in medical school, we were taught that nerves don't repair themselves. If you have nerve damage or if you have brain damage, there's, neuroplasticity ends at age 25, and then you're basically done. Any damage that happens to your nervous system, it's just going to be there permanently. There's no way to repair it. When I was in residency, that's when all of this research started coming out about neuroplasticity and increasing neuroplasticity and neuroplastogens, or various natural or even synthetic substances that upregulate molecules in the body, like BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or NGF, nerve growth factor. And when you can upregulate these molecules in the body, it gives chemical signals to the neurons to reconnect and to make new nervous system pathways. Again, both in the periphery, like let's say you crushed an ankle or something and the nerves were damaged. Well, we now know within reason that those nerves can rejoin and repair. It takes a long time, but it can happen. And same with in the brain. So again, it used to be thought if you have some neurological condition, whether it's neurodegenerative or a mood disorder or PTSD or anything like that, once you have it forever. And that's not to say that can't be true in certain circumstances. But what we now know is that by using neuroplastogens, which we use in our products, and neuroprotectives, you can decrease the amount of time it takes for those new neuronal connections to be made. And that also helps people. And that's something that Crystal and I both bonded over at the beginning, is that the idea is that, especially with Calm and Uplifted, that it can be a catalyst to help people make the changes that they know they already know what they need to do to feel better. But people are so overloaded, they're so overwhelmed, they're so stressed, they can't sleep. So they aren't doing the things they know they need to do. They're grabbing the junk food, or they're staying up all night, or they're doom scrolling, or
Yeah.
Whatever the case may be, they're distracting themselves and not doing what they know they should do. And so that was a big goal for us too, is to give somebody something that can allow them to make changes faster and allow them to reprogram their nervous system faster, so that they get that's where the long-term benefits come in both products.
And I can speak to that, being a child of hideous trauma and doing a ton of work on myself. I'm grateful for all the awesome people I've met in my life, to do this beautiful work. But when I started using the products, I really noticed how do I say this? It was almost like I had a switch. My nervous system kind of was like, oh, we're supposed to sort of like behave, and we're supposed to ebb and flow and have rest and shut down and receive. I don't think I'm a giver by nature, and I don't think I know how to receive, and it's important. And I feel like that cream allowed me to receive abundance in my health and in I'm going to start crying, but
I don't mean to.
everything. It's just, I cannot say enough good things about this cream. I'm going to stop crying. You keep talking. Go ahead.
That's really beautiful. And I kind of wanted to touch on this earlier when you mentioned just like that we live in a world that's just so hard on our nervous system. That's really how this came up, because I was working with a lot of people with anxiety, and they were getting good results doing the work, but I noticed the work was really hard for them to do. People just don't have the time to do all the things, the eating well and the exercise and the yoga, and they don't have the discipline. And it's very hard when your mind is already in this kind of like snowball motion to get out of it.
Right.
But also people don't kind of want to take medication, right? For all the reasons that some people don't want to take medication. And so that was really the impetus for how we created this, because we really wanted something that helped your nervous system, because we're in a world that is like every day attacking your nervous system, and it's creating so many different health conditions for people. I used to share this all the time, but I don't know if people know that the World Health Organization has classified anxiety as a disease of modernization, because it's literally a function of how we're living. So
I did not know that.
It's crazy.
That's the only thing I like about the World Health
As Jim was saying, it's one of those it's one of the reasons that we created this, right? Like we're all about root cause solution, and we felt like people really needed something that would support them at the root cause, which is the nervous system, but also give them the space in their life, just like the example that you shared, Renee, so they can then do more things that are healthy for their nervous system to help them combat that and help them find deeper healing.
Well,
Right.
and with what Dr. J does, which is so extensive, she's a doctor. I mean, she deals with a lot of really crazy cases like me and like a million other cases. And I see a lot of weird stuff too, you know, but I just feel like people don't have a way to kind of just even do the few things they need to do. Even just, you know,
Yeah.
talking to somebody about like taking out like tomatoes for histamine, like what? You know, they're so triggered. I'm like, okay, it's okay. Here, just watch this Lumna video and order the cream, and we'll talk about tomatoes next time. You know.
Well, I think people underestimate how much it's a loop. You know, like that's one of the reasons why it was working for pain. The anxiety formulation, which is what led to the pain formulation, because anxiety and pain are so related, and anxiety and pain are also so related to many of the conditions that people are having.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that that's why it was important for us. And you know, Dr. J in her practice really focuses on things on a very holistic level.
Very, very. And it's I mean, and everybody comes into your office, Dr. J, with some kind of physical, emotional pain. I mean, because they have something wrong with them. So even if they don't feel pain in their body, they have emotional pain because their doctor is giving them some horrible diagnosis or whatever it is. I want you to eventually work on a formula for our chalupas. Janine and my dog. We would need a formula for the dogs.
We do.
Yeah.
Dog formula. I have a question. So we totally need that for dogs for sure, Renee. The formulas that you have the pain, the one that I have, and then you have an
Relief.
anti-anxiety,
Calm and
What?
uplifting. Mhm.
calm and uplifting.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to formulate those two products? Like, was that a intensive, lengthy process, or?
Can I just quickly interject? I just want to say a couple of things before I get with some of the things that we were talking about. It was just in my mind. So Renee, I know you mentioned your story, and it's for me really heartwarming to hear, and I think for Dr. J too, because I don't know if you know, but the company is called Lumna because it's about illumination, and our tagline is "Illuminate your body, illuminate your life." And so it's really like full circle for us when we hear stories like this, not just about the symptoms, which are really great, but when we hear how it's changing people's lives in that way. And then the other thing I wanted to mention just very quickly, Janine, I love your story too about, you know, like trying all these different things. And then it really supporting you. And I think, you know, some of the things, and Joshua might talk more about this, but some of the things that, some of the question that a lot of people have is, how come it works so well? You know, and I think a lot of that is based in the formulation. But one of the things that we hadn't mentioned yet was just how bioavailable it is. So, you know, Dr. J was mentioning that, you know, you are taking in all of the ingredients, not just, you know, if you use like a 5,000 milligram cream, like I remember someone had said to us that this is working better than their 6,000 milligram cream, CBD cream. And it's because when you're doing that, it's, you know, like a lot of it is just on your skin, but you're not absorbing it. But, you know, and we're using those ingredients plus other things like magnesium and kava and, you know, like 21 different things. And I think another thing that's helpful for people to understand about why it's working is that all of those ingredients are at a therapeutic dose. A lot of times when people are using things, there's like, you know, like Renee was saying, there's like a lotion and then people just like put like a small amount of like stuff in there, but they're all at a therapeutic dose, which comes back to what Dr. J was saying, which is why it's so hard to make. It's hard to pack all that stuff in there. You want to see us, we're like dumping all this like lion's mane in there. There's all these things that are so good for you that it's just really, condensed with all these things that are really good for people's health. So,
well, and they started with one product, and I think Sweet Relief was birthed out of.
That's right, because we found that product was really working for pain because it's supporting your nervous system, and you know a lot of pain is at your nervous system level. And then Dr. J was like, well, if people like this for pain, I can make it even better.
Yeah. So what did that look like for you, Dr. J?
Yeah. So the original, I mean, I probably, I don't have a quantitative number of hours, but you know, there's so many various options of what I could use. And this is like the art of formulation. Is I peruse through all my resources, my clinical expertise, the clinical evidence, what has the highest degree of evidence, both in my clinical experience and in science, you know, for these various, initially for anxiety, but again, non-sedative options for anxiety and stress. And then I also kept in mind, because many of my patients are polypharmacy. They're taking a lot of different drugs. And so I also wanted to make sure to not include herbs or other nutraceuticals that would work, but that somebody wouldn't be able to use the product because it might antidote or interfere with the drugs that they were taking already. So I kind of pared down all of my resources, had a full list. These are the options we can use, kind of found sourcing for everything. I don't know how many hours that took in total, but maybe 20 or 30 to kind of figure it all out. And then I kind of came up with a rough estimate of what I was going to need for emulsification and how I was going to drive all of the constituents, whether fat soluble or water soluble, into the emulsion, and then tweaking the percentages of all of that to make it, again, at the end, fully cohesive so that it wasn't splitting. So that whole, and then, like I said, I think it was the third batch that I made where the consistency was pretty much perfect. I had pretty much perfected that. So I kind of used that as a template, and it was different than where I originally started. And so then, like Crystal said, we found out that this was working so well for pain. And at first, everybody that we were talking to about it was like, how is that possible? Like, this is supposed to be for anxiety and stress. Like, why would this work for pain? I'm like, well, everything I used was to nourish the nervous system, and pain starts in the nervous system. You know, I did my residency in integrative oncology and palliative care, including chronic pain management. So I've been working with chronic pain patients for, even before I finished medical school. So I'm very intimately aware of that mind-body connection and what chronic pain does to a person. And so that's when I said to Crystal, like, well, if this is working really well for pain, like, I can definitely kind of use the main-ish template of what I already did, add some extra stuff, take some stuff away, switch the ratios of a few different things, doctor it up. And that one, I think I got pretty much on the first time, because at that point I had already gotten the main formulation down. So it took maybe one or two iterations before that one was pretty much perfected. And we did find it. It's interesting because certain people, I always ask pretty much every patient this for various reasons. When it comes to somebody who has, let's say, anxiety or depression or PTSD, and then also chronic pain, part of my job is to help people unwind, chicken or the egg, which is kind of the core issue. What's really the deepest part of this? Is it the, PTSD or the anxiety and the depression that's causing manifestations of physical pain? Or is it that you have these conditions that are causing physical pain that makes people extremely anxious and depressed and feel traumatized, and then they get medical trauma because they're gaslit by the medical community and all of these other things? So, like, which is the deepest layer? And then I'll recommend one of the products based on that. But still, anecdotally, we're all different. We all have different bodies. We all have different unique physiologic responses. And so for certain people, even if they think that pain is the worst part, Calm and Uplifted might actually be working better for their pain, and vice versa. We have other people who are using the Sweet Relief mainly for their anxiety and PTSD triggers, because and it's working for, they both work for sleep and mood and reducing anxiety. And to kind of double back also to what you were saying, Renee, about the nervous system, I think it's the goal is not to always be in ventral vagal all the time. Like, if there's someone chasing you, or if somebody's trying to run you down in traffic, like, you need your fight or flight response. It protects us. It makes us survive. If you're sick with a horrible fever, you need to go into dorsal vagal shutdown and just sleep it off. Like, the nervous system should be flexible and should be able to move through those states organically based on the stimuli. But what happens is people get caught in these loops where they're in sympathetic, or shut down for, months or years. And so it's when we're looking for that fluidity, for that resiliency to improve, so that the nervous system can move between these various phases seamlessly in response to real stressors, not just because we're feeling so stressed and anxious and overwhelmed that we feel like we're being chased by a tiger, but really we're just sitting in our kitchen and paralyzed, not knowing what to cook for dinner, you know, like.
Right. And that's such a great point to bring up. And even the little piece of like when your body, you know, you get sick, people take a Tylenol, they want to like drop their fever down, but fever's there for a reason. Like your body is meant to have a fever to fight off whatever is going on. So don't take the Tylenol, let your body ebb and flow and use something topical like Sweet Relief. I mean, yes, it's got cayenne pepper in it, but it's cooling at the same time because it's got the menthol in it. So,
Right.
you know, the body is beautiful and has such an innate wisdom. You just give it a little bit, like a little bit of cream, a little bit of Lumna, and it's like, yep, we know what to do. You know, it's so important. I cannot say enough good things about this stuff. I love it. It's like crack for me.
Two quick things I just want to add. I know Dr. J is very humble, and she's talking about like her process of making the formulation. But I think like, you know, it's been years and years and years of her background with, you know, studying naturopathic medicine and also having that background with her master's in science in the Ayurvedic world, which is extremely complex to understand. You have to basically understand another language in order to understand it. And, you know, goes back, you know, 5,000-10,000 years of ancient medicines that work that really helped to dictate that, you know, she had a really strong grasp of. And we did spend, you know, over a year testing it clinically to get people's response to see how it was working with people. And it was really exciting. We saw that people who usually have allergies to certain things like cayenne or essential oils weren't. And that's probably because of the sourcing and the formulation altogether.
That's
and
a big deal. It's
Yeah.
clean. When it's clean, your body's not going to respond in a negative way.
One of the things that we see a lot of people really like is that we have all our safety certifications, right? Like we are tested clean for mycotoxins, for mold, for heavy metals, for THC, and that's all on our website for people to see. And, you know, I think sometimes that's kind of why natural medicines kind of get a bad rap because of what they're using that's not as effective or the dosage. And so we wanted to really make sure that that reputation for natural medicine was really preserved and people understood how strong it can be. And so like these stories that we're hearing are just so empowering for us going through this journey. Dr. was saying how hard it is to make because, you know, like all the things that we kind of wanted to do, it's wonderful to meet the people that are sharing that experience. And I think the last thing I was thinking is, I know we've been talking sort of about like trauma and CPTSD and things like that. And I think one really interesting thing that I find fascinating is that it's one of the only products that is there for, the only product that we know of for somatic pain and, you know, for emotional stress that's stored in your body. And it's pretty fascinating about how it does that and why. And since Dr. J is here, maybe you know, you could answer, you can share a little bit about that. I think it's really interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so in terms of somatic pain and in terms of CPTSD, first of all, it's CPTSD is a relatively new diagnosis and it's still dramatically underdiagnosed. So a lot of people, basically you can think of CPTSD as like a lot of, it can be many big traumatic events that are all additive, or it can be a lot of little mini traumas over time that accumulate over a person's life. It's not like, oh, I went to war and I experienced this one really big, horrible thing. And now I'm, you know, completely dysregulated from this one thing, but it's the little things that add up and then the way it spirals again in our nervous system. And childhood trauma really affects the way not only the brain develops, but the autonomic nervous system, how it develops. And again, very frequently people with CPTSD, especially if there's childhood trauma, they get stuck in either fight or flight or freeze. You know, they generally often go through both and at different times, but usually tend more toward one or the other. So again, going back to what we were talking about earlier with the nervous system, these neuroplastogenic ingredients, these ingredients that are working to repair and help create new neural pathways, it can help not only with the mood aspect and the trigger aspect and the anxiety and the fear and the depression and the helplessness that come with having PTSD, but also I always say we store our issues in the tissues. You know, whatever we don't process emotionally get stuffed into our tissues, mainly into the fascia. It can be the fascia surrounding our organs. It can be the fascia surrounding our muscles. It can be in our pelvis, anywhere in the body, but we kind of shunt all of that trauma into our physical body. And of course, our nervous system is dysregulated the whole time as well. And so that's why I think that's sort of my hypothesis, is that the people who are getting better pain relief from Calm and Uplifted are the people who have more stored trauma in their tissues. And this not only are the ingredients, again, helping to improve the autonomic nervous system and the brain neural responses, and kind of breaking through those feedback loops and creating new grooves, but also it's working on the fascia of the body. And even just the act of massaging oneself and taking the time to connect with one's body, and then, you know, knowing that you're doing something that's actually very healthy for you. And you would have to take fistfuls of supplements to get a therapeutic dose of each of the constituents in both products. And so knowing that not only are you doing an act of self-care, and of course in Ayurveda, self-massage is like a daily practice that is one of the best things for your nervous system in general. But that act of self-care, getting out, you know, working on the areas where there's tightness, where there's soreness, where there are fascial adhesions, that really also works systemically. You know, when it comes to fascia, it's what holds us together. It never ceases to amaze me that if you look at a person and their body and everything else other than their fascia is stripped away, they look exactly how they look, because it connects everything. And again, and also the thing about fascia is it can exist in both a solid and a liquid state. I don't think a lot of people realize that, but when you work muscles, you know, when things get heated up, either through sauna, sweating, exercise, massage, directed attention, that solid fascia becomes liquid. And so it can actually change, and you can actually remove adhesions. And then again, if those fascial adhesions are interrupting nervous system signaling and causing aberrant, you know, pain signals or other things, you are unwinding that whatever was stored and allowing for more freedom for, you know, energy, prana, however you want to say it, to nervous system impulses, all of it, blood flow, lymph flow, everything to just flow better, and for the whole system at a higher, broader level to come more deeply into balance.
I have my dentist is a holistic dentist, and she's doing her own ketamine. Anyway, I love her dearly. I massaged her neck with the sweet relief, and I did like half hour on just her neck and her traps. And I mean, while she got up and she was like, wow, I was like, I felt just as good. I felt like my neck and my traps. And I don't do massage anymore. I haven't done massage professionally in over 20 years, but I was just like, it was amazing how I felt just having the cream on me and working on her, because I was getting it, you know, on me.
My massage therapist does the same. She says that when she has pain in her wrist, and she says when she does the massage with me and she uses the cream, she doesn't have the pain in her wrist.
Well, that's so funny about wrist pain. I was driving to my dog's Frisbee league. I have to have two good hands for that, right? And all of a sudden, I don't know what's going on. I'm like, what the hell's going on? I like reached back, open up the sweet relief. I dip in there. I'm not washed. I'm like, I'm not going to tell the girls. And I'm rubbing, because you're supposed to have washed hands before and after. Otherwise, whatever toxins are in your hands are going to go into your system. So clean hands, everybody. And I'm rubbing my wrist, and I'm like, okay, well, we'll just see. I get to Wisconsin, you know, I'm like 15 minutes later, and I'm like, I can throw the Frisbee. I had no pain. And I don't know if it was from massaging the dentist, because I hadn't done massage in like 15 years, but it was so fast. It was so fast. The cream just works so fast. And it just knows what to do. It knows how to tell your body what it needs, whether you need a little bit of a sympathetic push or a little parasympathetic hold, or it regulates you. It regulates you. It knows what you need. It's so amazing. Oh, so can we still go for a few more minutes? Because I want you to talk about the ingredients and some of the big players and why they do what they do. And I mean, everybody knows about castor oil and PAX and liver and all that. And once you talk about the ingredients, just talk a little bit about what they can do and what they're good for and how they can help, you know, with like each maybe the system or directly or however you want to do it.
Sure, yeah. So we have, so I'll start with the Sweet Relief because we've been talking about that quite a bit. That's our product for pain primarily. Again, I originally formulated it specifically for neuropathic pain just because there's a huge gap in our medical system in terms of neuropathic pain. There's only 2 drugs that are FDA approved for neuropathic pain. They're both gabapentinoids, and very few people respond robustly to them. And there's no other on-label FDA treatments, and it's very difficult to treat. So again, because we are focusing on the nervous system in general, it was originally formulated for neuropathic pain, but it works for all kinds of pain, whether joint and muscle pain, injury pain, somatic pain, etc. We already kind of talked about that there's the dual effects in terms of central nervous system desensitization to pain, but also local pain relief as well if you apply it to the areas of pain. And then again, there's the mood support and sleep support aspect, because of course you can't recover in general if you're not sleeping. Your body is not, like, sleep is critical, and it's something that I think all, myself included, overlook. So in terms of ingredients, there's both immediate acting ingredients and then more long-term tonifying ingredients. And then there's overlap between those two. So I'll kind of focus on the big players. There's a lot of other ingredients as well that I won't get into because we would be here for hours, but I'll focus on the highlights, like the biggest players. So for immediate, like what people are feeling immediately, like you, Renee, when you said like it was within minutes that you noticed that your wrist pain was getting better. There are both CBD and CBG. CBD reduces inflammation and anxiety immediately. And again, there is a therapeutic dose of both of these. CBG boosts mood and also improves digestive function. And it's really good for the brain and the nerves. And then there's also kava, which people think of a lot for anxiety, but I think a lot of people don't realize that kava is nature's muscle relaxer. So in general, it relaxes the whole system. So it does help with anxiety and it does help with relaxation, but it also is a muscle relaxer of all the muscles in the body. And it has an affinity for the pelvis. So for pelvic pain, menstrual pain, any sort of gynecological pain, bladder pain, super helpful for that. Then there's, again, still in the immediate actors, there's mucuna, which has a high quantity of L-DOPA, which increases dopamine. So again, gives a boost. Lion's mane also works as what we call a nootropic or cognitive enhancer. So it helps, that is one of the main actors for the focus and attention and mood. And then two other sort of immediate actors are menthol, which obviously provides a cooling sensation, and it also decreases pain processing in the brain. So that is one of them that works at the central nervous system. It's similar to an NSAID in the brain, but it's not an NSAID like ibuprofen. And again, it gives a cooling sensation. And then topically, it also works really well for pain. And then cayenne, but I wanted both. I wanted the Sweet Relief to have an icy hot sensation, but I didn't want it to be like in your face, way too much icy hot, like I remember Bengay when I was growing up, and it was like, so overwhelming. And so I wanted to use those because they're great medicines, but I wanted it to be a little bit more subtle, especially because it's being systemically absorbed. So like you don't need to megadose those two. But the cayenne, it helps improve blood flow to the area. So obviously increasing more absorption. And then also just immediately decreases pain through depleting substance P, which I'm going to get to in a second. So the long-term actors, again, in speaking in broad strokes, are the biggest players. In long term, it's lion's mane that increases BDNF and NGF, so that helps with the neuroplasticity component and rewiring and damaged neural networks or nerves. CBG also is a neuroplastogen and also neuroprotective, like I said. Mucuna is also in Ayurveda a nervous system, what we call rasayana or rejuvenative. And cayenne, again, in the long term, the more you use it, it depletes a peripheral neurotransmitter called substance P. That's what triggers pain signaling back to the brain. So the more you use cayenne, the substance P will be depleted and you won't get the firing from the periphery to the brain that, hey, there's pain here, pain here, pain here. Then also in the long-term category, Crystal already talked, we did earlier about the alpha-lipoic acid. Same with acetyl L-carnitine. They both work to improve cellular metabolism, to detoxify and nourish damaged neurons. And then ALA is nephroprotective, like we talked about. So especially if somebody's kidneys are stressed from chronic NSAID use, the ALA is a big player in that. And then both cannabinoids, both CBD and CBG, are anti-neoplastic and anti-metastatic. So there's a lot of good immune benefit there, and prevention of cancer and all of that.
Sure. I have a quick question, 2 quick questions, real easy. One, would you say that like other CBD products that don't work are maybe for 2 reasons? 1, not a therapeutic dose, and 2, maybe not a quality product? Would that be the right answer there?
Yes, both. So number one thing I always see in terms of natural medicines is people chronically underdose. They say, oh, I tried lion's mane and it didn't work. And I say, how much did you try? And they said 1 capsule. And like, you have to take 3 capsules twice a day minimum to get a benefit there. Like 1 capsule isn't going to do enough. And again, are you even digesting and absorbing what you're taking in orally? And same with CBD. So there's huge amounts of adulteration in CBD, huge amounts of just bad practices in a relatively unregulated space. And also people really skimp on the dosage. And that's one of my areas of expertise, is in the medical use of cannabinoids. And people need to dose a lot higher than they realize with CBD. But we have a therapeutic dose of both CBD and CBG in Sweet Relief, but we don't overshoot it. Like to have 6,000 milligrams in a topical, people are overshooting it because normal topicals just go into the epidermis. They don't go down into the dermis and down into the bloodstream. So they're not getting the central nervous system effects. They're just getting topical analgesic effects of
Got it. And yeah, that makes sense. And that was also like my other, and just to reiterate, for those of you who are listening, not psychoactive. You're not going to feel stoned or anything. You don't feel anything other than
they're all, everything's 0% THC.
0% THC. Yeah. But the other thing I was going to ask you, and you brought up lion's mane, of course, because you were reading my mind. I always think of like mushrooms and things like that being used in the digestive system. Can you explain how it goes in to the body with being applied topically, please?
Yes, of course. So it's really interesting because for the most part, like when I'm using mushrooms for immune support, you really want the water soluble constituents. So you want to make like a tea or have capsules and take it with water, because most of those polysaccharides are come out, like beta glucans come out in water. So what was interesting, this is actually one of the many steps in formulations that I did. The molecules that increase BDNF and NGF are they're alkaloids, so they're fat soluble. So we were actually able to extract them in part of our herbal oil and still have the alkaloid effect and still have the upregulation of BDNF and NGF without having to like make a tea or put it in as a powder, because that would of course mess up the whole experience.
I always wondered about that. I've been dying to ask you that. So thank you for that. Because I'm like, I always thought you had to get it into the mouth for it to work. So beautiful, perfect answer. Thank you.
Of course. So then I'll just quickly go into, again, the highlights of Calm and Uplifted, which is our formulation for calming the nervous system and stress response, improving sleep, etc. just before I get into the ingredients, big reminder that stress reduces immune function and also interferes with hormones because of the cortisol. So in using this, the idea, again, top-down approach, psychoneuroimmunology, psychoneuroendocrinology, is that by balancing the nervous system, we are going to bring hormones and immune function back into better balance too. And of course, it helps support sleep without being sedating. So you can totally, again, that was Crystal's one of Crystal's big asks at the beginning was, I want something to work, but that people can use throughout the day and they don't feel sedated, because so many things that work on anxiety are sedatives. And that's why we named it Calm and Uplifted, because it's this sweet balance of both. Again, it supports nerve and brain health, autonomic nervous system. We've talked about that extensively. And then all of the stuff we talked about with fascia and somatic pain or somatic trauma recovery. And then also there are various constituents that improve focus and mental clarity. Nootropics for executive functioning, helping people again to focus, but also, so that's again where the Calm and Uplifted comes in, is that I wanted something to help with anxiety, trauma, being in sympathetic overdrive or overwhelmed, but also to maintain or improve their clarity and also boost the mood. So the idea is to have a calm, centered, balanced, but elevated and connected feeling with oneself, with what else, whatever you believe in, other people, etc. So the constituents here that I'll focus on is that, and again, some of them work in both the short and long term. It's kind of hard to say, oh, well, this is only for the long term effects and this is only for the short term effects. But some of them, it's easier than others. So I'll kind of talk about both. In the short, like the immediate effects that you're noticing when you use, or when any of us use Calm and Uplifted, is one of the constituents is saffron. There's a lot, I'm obsessed with saffron in general. Personally, I just am obsessed with it. But in clinical trials, when it comes to the brain and the mood, there's a lot of research that backs it for the use of depression, also binge eating disorder, anxiety, ADHD, overall focus and attention. So definitely working on a whole bunch of neurotransmitters, and definitely supporting, it's a rejuvenative for the brain in Ayurvedic medicine. Kava Kava, again, is in both formulations. So like I said, that of course helps with anxiety, but it also reduces spasms in the pelvis and whole body. So because most of us who are really stressed or anxious are holding a lot of tension, right? So just it relaxes the physical body as well as the mind. We added L-theanine, which increases theta waves in the brain. So that kind of facilitates a Zen or meditative mind, and also improves focus and mental clarity. Clinical research also support its use for both anxiety and ADHD. CBG is definitely, I always say CBG for giggles. That's definitely one of the uplifters. It really boosts mood. It again supports digestive function tremendously, including nausea. A lot of people who get anxiety or have PTSD have a lot of nausea, and CBG definitely quells that. In the short term, but really it's the CBG for giggles. And then there's also ashwagandha, which balances cortisol levels. So that helps to improve both hormonal function and immune function, balances sex hormones, improves sleep, improves focus, and also reduces anxiety. It's one of the most heavily researched herbs other than cannabis in sort of the botanical pantheon. And then long-term, like the three of them that I'll focus on the long-term benefits from is, they're actually also in the short term. Saffron is a nervous system and overall systemic rejuvenative in Ayurveda. CBG, as I said earlier in Sweet Relief, is neuroprotective and anti-neoplastic, and it also is a neuroplastogen. And then ashwagandha in Ayurveda is used as a nervous system and muscle rejuvenative. And it also promotes longevity. It's one of Ayurveda's main longevity herbs. So those are some of the heavy hitters. There's all of our ingredients are listed on our website for both formulations. So you can check out there's a lot of other things I did not mention. They're also doing a lot that have a lot of activity, but those are kind of the high notes.
Yeah, and just to reiterate too, all the ingredients are sourced from very clean sources, as clean as they can, with a really nice price point for the product, because they took their time to really find as clean of a source as they can, which is another reason why it works so well. Because when you put stuff that's adulterated with chemicals and pesticides and metals, your body's got to get through all that to try to even get to the ingredients, and then you're burdening your body with more toxins. Right. So that's a huge thing too. Just like when I'm working with people with the gut, you don't want to put in gross supplements that have a lot of crap in it, because you already have a compromised gut to begin with. But
that's what they say they are. That's my biggest issue with. That's why I'm so particular about sourcing supplements in general, including anything in our product, but also just for patients, because there's so much adulteration. I mean, I have celiac disease, and I remember at one point when I was in medical school, there was I think it was some supplement, some vitamin or supplement at Walgreens, and they were using wheat flour as a filler in their supplement.
No. And so you got sick.
I didn't take. I would not take personally. I would take supplements from Walgreens in general. But this is big, news, because you can't do. I have a friend with an anaphylactic wheat allergy. If she were to take whatever that was, she would die. If she didn't have an EpiPen. So you can't do that. So the supplement industry is rife with a lot of snake oil, with a lot of really adulterated bad products. And so sourcing is so critical. And that's why we were super adamant about doing testing to make sure that everything was clean. And we were also really proud of our sourcing, because when everything did come out clean, we were like, great. The people that we got our stuff from we hoped that they were doing what they're saying, but they are. So
yeah, well, you can prove it by the clinical tests. So yeah, I mean, I know we can go on for hours. I have one saffron question, then we can kind of wrap up here. But back to the saffron, because you got my ire up on that. Could that maybe work for somebody you know and love that has a little thyroid hunger? Is it more of an emotional? Is it emotional eating? Because as you know, my appetite is voracious with this thyroid storm that I'm in,
right.
And I can't stop eating. But could I take some saffron?
Yeah. There's actually there's a formulation. I mean, you can get it on Full Script. And there's an actual, I can't remember what constituent it is in saffron, but they call it satireal, SATIER.
We'll look for it.
But I know that there's various saffron extracts, but it's being used for people with who are overeating, and that's it probably works on norepinephrine, because it's been studied 1-to-1 with methylphenidate for Ritalin for kids with ADHD, and they are finding that it works just as well as Ritalin does for ADHD in kids. And so probably that's also why it's inhibiting hunger signals, because of that norepinephrine effect. The satireal is the whatever constituent or formulation that's in saffron that they're encapsulating for regulating mood or regulating appetite. Sorry.
Yeah. Thank you. Because I wasn't sure, if it was more of an emotional thing, but it's definitely a physical. I don't know. I feel like my hunger is a physical thing with what's going on with me. Then I'm just like, okay, with my weight, my thyroid's so up and down, and I'm Hashi and Graves, so I'm an overachiever. But I've got I had the weight of my high school weight, about a month and a half ago, and now I'm I'm 15 pounds heavier now. And I'm blaming my sweet thyroid that I love. Dr. J's helping me. We're helping the thyroid.
Yes, we're gonna get out of it.
But I will say, I've been putting the Sweet Relief on my thyroid since I got it, and it really helped right away. I rub it on the top of my vagus nerve. I go into my lymph. I go around my lymph and even down in my lymph by my crotch, and I don't get too close. But I just getting the lymph going with the Sweet Relief. If people just did that and we're breathing, it feels so much better.
100%. 100%. Also, plug for breast massage using Calm and Uplifted, because number one way, in my opinion, to prevent, well, number one and number two ways to prevent breast cancer, in my opinion, are regular breast massage using castor oil, which is in the Calm and Uplifted.
Yes.
Also there's also shatavari, which is great for reproductive health for women, in the Calm and Uplifted. And then also it's moving the lymph. And so that's a huge aspect in terms of prevention of breast
health.
cancer.
Yeah.
And then the number two thing I would recommend is breath work. Nadi Shodhana, pranayam, those two things for prevention of breast cancer.
Yeah.
Oh, and so there's CBG, which is also preventative against breast cancer. So
Yes.
that's one of my favorite things is breast massage using Calm and Uplifted.
I also want, for anybody who's listening who has a diagnosis of cancer or any horrible disease, or they're really struggling with a lot of their health, I can't say enough good things about Dr. J. I'm a practitioner myself, struggle with my health. I've done a lot of really great work and I'm doing a lot better, but the body ebbs and flows just like life does, right? So as some things go away, new things reappear, and however it is, this is what's happening for me. I want to invite you guys to reach out to Dr. J. She's at Neuroveda Health in Seattle, Washington. She can take you remotely, which she does because I'm in Illinois, although I might go bother her in her clinic just because I have to give her a hug at some point. And if you are stuck with your health and you're not getting your answers from your doctor, and you've seen functional medicine practitioners and you're just still like facing medications, facing diagnosis, facing chemotherapy, radiation, things aren't going the way they need to be going, please reach out. There's help. She's a natural medicine doctor. She's a naturopathic physician. She has as much training as a medical doctor. I don't even know what the training is, but it's more because her menu is full of the natural stuff, and she knows the medications too. So you get the best of both worlds with her. She's an angel sent from heaven, and Crystal is as well too. And I just can't say enough good things about these two wonderful angels that came into my life. If you guys want to order any kind
We
of
feel the same about you.
We do feel the same about you. Yeah, big plug for you.
Thank you. You guys can go to lumna.com, and you will see the 4 products. They have a golden spoon, the 2 sweet relief, calm and uplifting, and a gua sha, beautiful 3 different color stones that you can do some massage gently on your neck or on your arm or wherever. I recommend the golden spoon because it's beautiful. And when I ordered it for my stepdaughter, she was like, "Oh, why didn't I have this in college? I put it on my eyes. It's so nice and cool." But you don't want to contaminate the formula. So you want to wash hands really good, scoop out what you need, make it a ceremony. Really just take a minute to breathe, be grateful for the formula. You don't have to do the whole prayer, but just take a moment to know that this is going to help you. You put it on, get it on your body. It takes less than a minute. It takes me more because I have more areas to do. Wash your hands and then go on about your day. And if you want to get a little discount, you can use 20 Tummy Whisper for 20% off. And I think, Janine, you can put the link in the comments if you want. And then these girls answer questions. Dr. J will actually answer your questions. She's a very busy doctor, but if you're stuck with your health, they both will answer questions. If Dr. J can't get you right away, Crystal will get your question to her, and she will be able to answer your questions for you. So I want to thank you guys so much for coming on and just giving people a way to help their health in a world that's emotionally and physically tough, right?
Yeah.
And this is to me a light that peeks out and says, we're all of us are going to be okay. So thank you both so much. Janine, my number 1 fan.
Yay. And make sure you follow the Tummy Whisper, Apple, Spotify, leave her a 5-star review. She's amazing. And thank you so much, ladies. I love your products.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Grace. Thanks for having us. Thank you for sharing the love.
Yes.
Thank you.